Hey, Wes here, Airstream Wanderings. Thanks for joining me today. I'm out collecting clay in Minnesota, and in Arizona there's a lot of clay where you can pick it up, grind it up, add some sand or temper and turn it into clay. It's nice and clean and easy to use, and I'm sure there's some of that here too, but I have not found it. So what I have to do is get this stuff right here, and it is dirty clay. It's got all kinds of sand and gravel. Roughly 20 or 40% of it is a bunch of junk in it that just makes trouble. But I like the clay when it's all said and done. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, is how to turn dirty clay into good clay. Please join me. So when you go around to construction sites around here, it's everywhere, all this clay. Here's the clay. I'm back home again. And so I need to process it, get it into a shape where I can actually use it. The problem is there's some really good clay in here, but about 40% of it is made up of gravel and rocks and sand, things that just cause problems. Plus there's a fair amount of calcium in this as well, and I think that can cause spalling. So what I need to do is separate that out. Normally it'd be great if I could take it in and just put it through my corn grinder and grind it up. But with all the gravel and things, it messes up the corn grinder, jams it up, it won't work. So I need a version of levigation. And I don't want to spend any more time than I really have to, because this is a fair amount of work anyway. So what I need to do first is to break this up so that I can put it in water and turn it into a slurry. Works best when this stuff is dry. And I don't need to get it pulverized. I just need it to be in small enough shapes or sizes so that it's going to be easy for it to absorb water. Big chunks like this, it take forever for water to get through that. So all I just need to do is break it up. Okay, I've got these all broke up. Suppose 1 inch or smaller. That's about right. And just need to put them in the bucket. Looks like there's never enough of these buckets. I must have at least a dozen of these things around the house. So I've got it about 1/3 full, and I think that's enough. If you get too much, I think it's going to be hard to get it turned into a slurry. Next step is add water. All right, now that everything is soaking, we just stir it up and distribute it, and we will let it sit all day long. And then we'll go to the next step. My goal here is to get the most amount of clay out of my material with the least amount of work, and to get it to dry reasonably quickly. And that's a big issue here, because in Minnesota, it's not as warm as in the Southwest, and certainly isn't as dry. So I'll show you what I'm going to do. I have an empty bucket, and I line it with a pillowcase, and that will act as a filter. So it's important that your pillowcase does not have any holes in it. Doesn't have to be, obviously it doesn't have to be a good one, because you will be ruining it. And then I have a screen that I put on top. And the purpose of that is just basically to collect any organic material, leaves and whatnot, that's floating around in my soup here. And then I just need to stir it up. So I'm going to feel in here, and this is turned into a slurry. I'm looking for any lumps and things, and I really don't feel big lumps, but I'm going to squish it up a little bit, and what I want are all those really fine clay particles to get suspended in the water. And this is basically a levigation, but as you recall, this is really dirty clay. It's got a lot of stuff in it, and I need to separate that out. Give it a good stir, get things all suspended. Let it rest for just a minute, or just a little bit, to let all the sand and rock settle to the bottom, and then pour it off. But I stop pouring before I get to all the rocks and that sort of thing. And then you can see that it caught a fair amount of organic stuff, which I will just get rid of. Let's add some more water to our original bucket and get a little bit more clay out of there, because we have more room in our new bucket here. At this point, this bucket has a lot of junk in it, but it still has some clay. Stir it up, let it settle for just a bit, and pour it off. Just so you can see, this is the stuff that's left over. There's still some clay in there, but there's rocks and sand. It's very, very gritty. So this is not going to do us any good. We'll just get rid of it. The clay has been sitting in the bucket. It is settled to the bottom. I have clear water on the top. And so the job now is to remove all the water so that I have solid clay to work with to make pots. So we're going to pour off some water. All right, the next, basically final step here is to take the pillowcase out of the bucket and just set it on a ground where it can kind of seep out. The beauty of this is that the fabric, the cotton of the pillowcase kind of wicks up the liquid and exposes more surface area to the area, or to the wind, and then it'll dry out a little bit more quickly. It'll still take a couple of days for this to dry out enough so that this clay is usable, but at that point then we can mix it up with some temper and turn it into pots. We'll just set it out here on the ground, and then in another day or so I'll come and turn it around a couple of times, and then it will just evaporate a little bit easier that way. But just leave it alone is the best thing to do at this point. The clay has been drying in the pillowcase for the last 24 hours, and I've just brought it in. Here it is. It's still fairly wet, but we're not quite done yet. The next step is to add some temper in. We don't have to do that right now. One option would be just to let the clay completely dry and then grind it up. And sometimes that might make sense, but it is a couple extra steps and some more extra work. People sometimes wonder, well, how do I know how much temper to add to wet clay? It's certainly easier when the clay is dry. So I will show you a way to get that done. All right, here is some of the clay that I have, and it's sticky and messy. And the question is, how do we decide how much temper to put in? Normally, I look for about 20%. And I know there's still some sand in this. It's not pure clay, but I'm going to still put in about 20%. So what I'm going to do is divide the clay into 4 pieces. I'm going to take out one of them. It's not exact, but this whole process is not exact anyway. All right, now if I just fill in the remaining piece, and this is ground up pottery sherd, so it's grog. So I end up with 5 pieces, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So each of these sections would be roughly 20%. If I wanted 25% clay, I would divide it into 3 pieces. So now all I have to do is mix it up. And one of the advantages of doing this now is that it will dry more quickly, because this is non-expansive. It's not nearly as dense as the clay is itself. So exact? No, it's not, but it's close enough for what I need it to do. The dirty clay has been processed and cleaned up and now turned into a bowl. And you can see it's kind of a pale green color. When it's wet, it's a dark green, and when it's fired, I believe it's going to be orange. So let's take it outside, get this thing fired, and then I will catch up with you afterwards. All right, here is the pot out of the fire. So as you know, we started off with dirty clay and turned it into clean clay, made it a pot, fired the pot. Clay was kind of greenish, and as you can see, it's orange, and that's the way it comes out here. This is my local clay, and turns out good, no problems. I like the painting on it as well. So it's been a good outing, appreciate that. I do see kind of a blowout right here. I don't know what that's all about. I've never had that happen before. So there is some calcium in this clay, or maybe it's seam and there is a bubble in there of some sort. In any case, I'm okay with it. It's okay. Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate that. Thumbs up, subscriptions, all those things. Those are all good. And so until next time, this is Wes with Airstream Wanderings, wishing you health, happiness, peace, and love. Take care. Bye-bye.